Hi guys! Welcome back to my channel, Rich Diva. This channel is dedicated to find ways to financial freedom by finding means to acquire money, save money, and multiply money. So please subscribe, like, and share this video.
In these uncertain times, financial security can feel a bit elusive. If you want to get a better grip on your money life, my guest today is here to help. Amanda Steinberg launched Daily Worth to bring a fresh voice and an outsider's perspective to personal finance. Today, Daily Worth's newsletter reaches more than 1 million subscribers. Oprah selected her for the exclusive Super Soul 100, and Forbes named her one of 21 new American money masters. Amanda has also appeared on GMA, Today, CNN, and MSNBC. She's the author of Worth It: Your Life, Your Money, Your Turn. What's your money story?
My money story is that I always wanted to be wealthy. I was raised by a single mom who raised me from a little kid saying, you will never depend on a man. Money will be something that comes easily and naturally to you. So I started working really young. I became a computer programmer, which was really, really lucrative. And I thought I was doing everything right. At a young age, I bought the house, owned a software company, got married, had babies, bought stocks, and then it all imploded. And I was like, how is it that I've been doing everything right and I actually landed $100,000 in debt? Not because I was overspending, but because I took on so much risk that I didn't understand that my assets became liabilities. And so I became really interested in this subject because I realized that even when you try and do everything right, that sometimes it can still go wrong. So how is it that you make money work for you no matter what? Even if you're not good at budgeting, even if you don't think of yourself as someone who's highly disciplined, how do you make money work for you?
So I'm curious, when you found yourself in that position of going, holy shit, this is not working from a financial perspective and other perspectives as well, what turned it around for you?
Well, what turned it around for me was I got invited to a money seminar by two women I had known for a while. And I was like, oh yeah, I definitely got to do this. I remember I was like 7 months pregnant and I got on the train from Philadelphia, where I lived, to New York City, waddled onto the train this really hot day and went and sat in this seminar and realized that I had been telling myself a story that I'm great at earning, but I'm also a spender. But because I'm great at earning, that eventually I will have more money than I spend, which really doesn't make a lot of logical sense, but it had been driving my whole life. And I was so sure that I was a spender, not a saver, that I never even questioned the idea that maybe that wasn't true. So it was during this seminar that I decided to start calling myself a saver and realized how that was actually going to change everything, no matter what the financial reality was of my life. Until I changed that, nothing was going to have a prayer.
So did you have any financial understanding at that point? Like, what was your level of education when it comes around personal finance? Like, were you balancing your checkbook? Were you making any investments for your future? Just curious.
I had read lots of books about personal finance. I had bought a few stocks. And I thought I knew about money, but really all I knew was earning money. I actually didn't know anything about managing money, and I had tried to budget many times and failed in doing so. So I would say it was pretty low aptitude in terms of knowing anything about money. It's very normal to feel really intimidated by money because a lot of us were raised by parents who also didn't understand money, and you can see the implications of that in your life, and perhaps you don't want to repeat that. So I think that the first thing that is important for you to do is I treat money like a video game. When I was a kid, I played lots and lots of video games. And the reason why this was useful was I would play a game and either I would win or I would lose. But regardless, I could always hit that reset button and start over. And that's the thing with money. Sometimes you're going to say, I'm going to save $200, or I'm going to go into the supermarket and I'm only going to buy what's on my list. And sometimes you're successful in whatever that is that you're trying to do, and sometimes you fail. Sometimes that's because you didn't do what you said you were going to do, and sometimes that's because life circumstances get in the way. What happens after that, for if you're intimidated by money, is you're going to start to make that mean something about you. I'm bad with money. Money is evil. I'm out of control. All those stories that we have around money. If you can choose to look at it like a video game, then you can say, you know what, I'm going to hit the reset button and I'm going to try again because I'm not going to make my experience with money mean something about who I am as a person. There is always an opportunity to start fresh. I mean, I have seen people go massively into debt and get out of it, and then go massively into debt again and then get out of it again. I mean, there is an extraordinary, I know victims of Madoff. I know multiple victims of Madoff, and 2 of them who've recovered unbelievably.
So for someone who's like, okay, I'm ready, right? Even though it's a little scary, even though I don't know what I'm doing, what is my first concrete step to take if I want to get a better grip on my financial life?
So the first concrete step to get a better grip on your financial life is about understanding your net worth. Now, if you're anything like who I was in the past, or like most people I meet, you wake up in the morning and you say, if I earn more, I will have more. Unfortunately, that actually puts you on a hamster wheel of never ending chasing after earnings. And it doesn't necessarily mean you have more. It actually means you might have less for various reasons. So the first concrete step that you want to take is calculating your net worth.
And how do we do that?
So how you do that is you figure out how much you own. When I say how much you own, I specifically mean what's in your savings account. Do you own a house? What's its value? Do you own any retirement funds? And anything else that has a value in the market.
Or even their checking account, right?
Even their checking account. Yes, cash is part of your assets. Then it's how much you owe. What's your credit card balance, your student loans, your mortgages, and what you owe your mom and your sister. And then you subtract what you owe from what you own. And that leaves you with a single number. And that single number is super, super important and can be a North Star for how you make all your financial decisions. And the way that you don't have to work forever or don't have to work as hard forever is by building assets. Because assets, investments, whether that's owning a home or owning retirement accounts or other types of assets, that is how you can ultimately produce income in the future without having to work for it. If you still have as much debt as you do have assets, those assets are already accounted for because you owe them to the debt. That's why net worth is important, because you want to really have more assets than you do debt eventually.
When it comes to turning your money life around from your point of view, what's more important to focus on if they are in that position where they're in the negative? Is it paying down the debt first, or is it starting to save, or is it a combination of both?
It is absolutely about starting to save. Starting to save is the most important thing. We think of debt as like a disease that we have to get rid of. That's how it's treated. And I know before I really learned about money management, every single time money would hit my bank account, I would try and throw it at that debt as quickly as possible.
I did that too.
Like, I have to get rid of it.
Yeah.
But the problem with that is that you're then just exposed to more debt. So it just becomes a perpetuating cycle that you never get out of.
And how are they exposed to more debt?
Because you don't have any cash for those curveballs and those unexpected things. It's absolutely about saving at least 1 month.
I would love to save. I would love to start investing for my future, but how do I do this if I don't have a steady paycheck that I can depend on?
Oh, it's so exhausting when you don't have a steady paycheck. And it is impossible to plan when you don't have a steady paycheck, because you can have the best of intentions, but if the money isn't there, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
So what's crucial, even if you're a freelancer, even if you're just getting started, that you create a separate checking account for your income, which if you're self-employed is actually revenue, not income. And then work towards creating a consistent draw from that business checking account into your personal checking account. And ideally being able to leave some in your checking account of your business so that on the months when you have less revenue, that you're able to still give yourself that consistency. And the second thing is, if you're going on for like years and years of not having enough coming into your business to be able to do this consistent draw, you got to get a bridge job. You got to get a 50% job. I've always done it. And it's not always a job that I love. Oftentimes it's better when it's a job that's like kind of mundane.
Yep.
But you need that consistency. Otherwise, it is going to be impossible.
Tell me about your experience with reducing expenses dramatically, or anyone in your community who has really done a good job at that.
Yeah, it's again, because I'm on a public platform and teaching so many people about personal finance, I use my life constantly as an experiment. I'm like, well, if I'm telling people to do that, I better be doing that myself.
Yeah.
So I have just gone through a major cost reduction where I am working toward getting my personal expenses to total be 50% of my net income so that I can save the other 50% of my net income. That's what I'm working towards right now.
For those who are listening who do have predictable income and they are like, okay, get it, I'm on board, I know my net worth, maybe perhaps for them, they aren't in debt, but they still know they could be doing a lot more to boost their financial life. What should they be doing? What should they focus on next?
So I think the first thing that they should focus on is that savings account that we were talking about. Just because so many people, even high earners who have retirement funds and all that other stuff, still don't have savings. Cash is just the best. The second thing is figuring out what is your primary route, your primary asset going to be. What's the one that you're really going to understand the mechanics of how this investment works? So for example, many of us buy houses because we think real estate is an investment, but it turns out real estate is not always an investment. Sometimes it can become a liability.
Yeah.
So as a result of that, if your house is going to be your primary investment, understand the difference between a 30-year mortgage and a 15-year mortgage. Because if you've got a 30-year mortgage, you're paying so much interest in that first 10 years that you're not actually building equity in the house nearly the way that you think you are. So that money might actually have done better in a retirement account. So figuring the mechanics of those, figure out, is this investment working the way it's supposed to be? That's absolutely vital.
If you have a 30-year mortgage and you just pay your mortgage payment, you wind up spending 3 times the amount of what you thought you purchased your home for.
Yeah, and if you sell it before 7 years or 10 years of owning that house, it all depends.
Yep.
Chances are that you actually didn't even make a return on the house. Even if it appreciated and you sold it for more,
Yep.
you actually didn't make a return. So it wasn't actually an investment. I mean, it's fascinating. I'll tell you another story. Do you know how banks calculate the minimum payment on your credit card?
How?
This is most banks. Most of it is just the interest that you owe, and then between 2 and 5% of principal.
Wow.
So that minimum is set up to basically just keep your debt where it is.
Live as far below your means as possible. I know we kind of mentioned this, but I still think, I'm always looking at my credit cards personally and business-wise and going like, is there a subscription hiding in there that I thought was useful, may have been useful, is not useful anymore? Where are the places where I'm spending more money that I don't have to? I'm curious, besides downsizing, which I love, is there anything else that's helped you live as far below your means as possible? And why should we do that?
Well, you should live as far below your means as possible because the pressure everywhere is to live as far over your means as you possibly can.
Yes.
So I say it that way because I often heard growing up, live below your means. But to me, living below my means was, little tiny. I always misjudged that one. That never really worked because I never seemed to actually get below my means, and then I got massive tax bills.
Yeah, and it's not precise either.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that actually doesn't work. If you start to try and live as far below your means as possible, you start to question the fundamental things that our society teaches us you're supposed to have, which is what, the type of car you're supposed to drive, the type of clothes you're supposed to wear, and all those things, which is what cause money to be so frustrating all the time, and go, is that because I really want that house or I really want that car? Or is that because I think I'm supposed to have it?
Because society has brainwashed you.
Yes, because society has totally brainwashed you.
Yes.
Or your family, or you have certain expectations about what someone in your job is supposed to look like and supposed to do, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I believe that so much of what we do is unconscious because we're playing through certain motions. And once you start to challenge your core fundamental beliefs about what's important, you might discover joy of what actually matters to you and being able to separate what are the things that I am doing because I think I'm supposed to, and then what are the things that truly, truly matter to me? And when you start to engage in these exercises, you become far more interested in what matters to you as opposed to going through the motions because you think you should.
And then the second habit, which I try and plan for as much as humanly possible, and I love that you mentioned this, is expect curveballs. What does that mean?
So curveballs are normal. One of the things that I realized about budgeting for me that was consistently frustrating was your phone breaks. You get a bill from the dentist, all those things. Right now I know my tires need to be changed on the car. And those things never go in a budget because they're unexpected. So one of the things that I recommend is that you set up a curveball account, which you always put, $100 with each paycheck into. This is not your emergency fund. This is a curveball account that you get to $500 and you expect it to get wiped out every 3 months. That way you don't feel like you're breaking your budget and You anticipate the curveballs. These days, I'm like, I think my curveball count needs to be like $2,000, you know?
Yeah.
As life gets more complicated and kids, et cetera. But that is, curveballs are normal.
Yes.
And curveballs are where everyone feels demoralized. So if we plan for the curveballs and we have a system for the curveballs, then we're like, oh, there's the curveball. And then I got this handled. Everybody has a different personality when it comes to money, and everyone has different motivations. And maybe you are motivated by having more money. Maybe you're motivated by having a bigger impact on the world. Maybe you're motivated by taking care of others. Just remember that no matter what that is, there's no right or wrong way to think about money, but the more you take care of yourself, the more you're able to take care of others. So don't see thinking about money as greedy or selfish or something that someone else is supposed to do. Think of it as what makes a stronger you so that you can be a stronger somebody for everyone else.